The Board of County Commissioners acts as a quasi-judicial body when it hears requests for rezonings and conditional use permits. Applicants must provide competent, substantial evidence establishing facts or expert witness opinion testimony showing that the request meets the zoning code and comprehensive plan criteria. Opponents must also testify as to facts or provide expert testimony whether they like or dislike a request is not competent evidence. The board must then decide whether the evidence demonstrates consistency and compatibility with the comprehensive plan and the existing rules in the zoning ordinance, property adjacent to the property to be rezoned, and the actual development of the surrounding area. The board cannot consider speculation, non-expert opinion testimony, or poll the audience by asking those in favor or opposed to stand up or raise their hands. If a commissioner has had communications regarding a rezoning or conditional use permit request before the board, the commissioner must disclose the subject of the communication and the identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place before the board takes action on the request. Likewise, if a commissioner has made a site visit, inspection, or investigation, the commissioner must disclose that fact before the board takes action on the request. Each applicant is allowed a total of 15 minutes to present their request, unless the time is extended by majority vote of the board. The applicant may reserve any portion of the 15 minutes for rebuttal. Other speakers are allowed 5 minutes to speak. Speakers may not pass their time to someone else in order to give that person more time to speak.
Good evening. Welcome to the Brevard County Commission meeting on this, the 33rd day, February 2nd of 2017, which means you only have 332 days left to do all those New Year's resolutions that you so faithfully are sticking to, I'm sure. So good luck with that. And also, you should know, and I was just advised of this fact, Punxsutawney Phil, the famous Pennsylvania groundhog, saw his shadow today, so we're going to have to endure another 6 weeks of winter. So it's tough, but we'll have to endure. And for those of you that have a keen interest in Florida history, you may be interested to know that on this day in 1971, Apollo 14 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center on its way to the moon. And that's what was happening on this day in history 46 years ago. So moving right along, we'll have our invocation.
I'm not sure if they confirmed whether or not they were coming.
Oh. Do you want to do it? You want me to do it?
You're very good at it. Would you mind?
No. Please stand for the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts. We thank you for all the many blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day. We thank you for getting here healthy tonight, and we pray that everyone will get home safely as well. We pray that you'll give us guidance and direction as we do the county's business. And we pray that you'll continue to watch over everyone in this building. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Oh, flag.
We're going to send the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, by special request, we're going to, first item of business will be 4B8.
Yes, Commissioners, this request is for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use from neighborhood commercial to community commercial, and the change of the zoning classification for RU19 to BU1 on 1.4 acres. This is located in the Melbourne area along the New Haven corridor.
Okay, and do we have a representative from Mr. Knorr's office?
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, honorable board members. My name is Cliff Reppinger. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Gray Robinson, and we represent the applicant. I'm pinch hitting tonight for Mr. Knorr. He had a medical issue and could not attend tonight. Not urgent, but something that prevented him from coming tonight. And Ms. Fox has done a nice job of identifying what the application is. What you have before you, you have an application for a Complan amendment and rezoning. The property is owned by GT Motors. That's our client. The property is 1.4 acres, located again on the east side of Valencia Road, approximately 400 feet north of West New Haven Avenue. The purpose of the request tonight is to allow for the storage of vehicles on the property. The property is adjacent to the existing Volvo Subaru dealership, and that dealership has been in existence, I think it was discussed at P&Z, somewhere in the neighborhood, not that particular manufacturer, but as a car dealership for somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 years. They want to try to utilize the portion to the property to the north for the parking. As part of this request, there is a binding development plan that should be in your package. The binding development plan provides for a fence to be installed along the western and northern boundaries of the property with landscaping. There is also a prohibition of access to that site from Valencia Road to avoid any traffic concerns. With that being said, I don't have too much more to add. I'll gladly open myself up to questions from the board regarding the package. We're respectfully requesting that you grant both the Complan amendment and the rezoning.
Any questions? I have a question for you. I believe it's Valencia Road. That would be the ingress for a tractor trailer bringing cars in? Is that what they use now?
I believe that they use it for the existing dealership site.
Right.
So there are two accesses. There's one to the south and one to the north. And I'm not sure exactly which one they're utilizing for that truck traffic, but I believe that's what's occurring now.
Well, when I was looking at it, I was thinking that the northernmost would be the most logical to widen, because either one of those is going to have to be widened to allow a tractor full of cars or whatever to get into that lot behind. And so that would be the logical one, because they could pull right in there and gain access to the lot behind.
Right.
And then they could make a U-turn and go right back out.
Around the dealership.
Right.
I think that was what was discussed at P&Z, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
You want me to help you out?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Ted Serbosik. I'm the owner of GT Motors.
Okay.
21 Pelican Court, Palm Coast, Florida. And I know he's a little disadvantaged because he just picked it up tonight, and we've actually never met. But anyhow, we have for years unloaded on that property, and there is ample room for these trailers to get in and off of those two access points that we have. It's a little tight, but they manage to do it. They're pretty good drivers. And the zoning request really is going to enable us to sort of unplug our parking lots to give us a little more room to get them in, because I know Valencia is a very narrow road, and it's a problem if they're parked on Valencia. So our intent and desire is to have them pull off so we can unload on our property, as we've done, for years.
Well, I'm familiar with the area, and I'm familiar with that road, and that's why I suggested the northernmost entrance to your property would be the one most likely to, and I would recommend, to widen, to allow them access. Then they could pull right in. They wouldn't obstruct the road. They wouldn't disturb the neighbors, and they could pull right into your lot in the back, and they could do a complete U-turn there and come right out the eastern side of your property, and then re-enter 192 from there.
Gotcha. Okay, we can certainly look into that.
Okay, anyone else?
I have one. I just want to clarify, you're not going to be using Valencia.
We're not going to be using Valencia. Our customers do, because that's one of our entrances right there. That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Mrs. Nardi.
I went by the site, and I wanted to disclose that to the board, that's why I had my light on a little bit earlier. That's okay. I mean, we had already started with the item, but I think that this is great. I read the binding agreement, and I think it's an acceptable compromise. I mean, and it makes sense what you're asking for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. So you can have a seat, and we'll listen to some comments from the neighbors.
All right. Thank you for consideration.
You're welcome. Ted Serbosik?
Yes,
Oh, that's you. Okay. Cliff Reppinger. Okay. We're just moving right along, aren't we? And David Turquette? Turquette. Please state your name and your address.
David Turquette,
And
236.
let me just give you a little heads up on, when it gets down to a minute, you'll probably hear a little beep. In 30 seconds, the yellow light starts blinking, and then when you're out of time, you'll hear another little beep, and then the red light comes on.
I don't think I'll be that long-winded.
Okay.
David Turquette, 236 Northwest Valencia, Melbourne, Florida. It's my wife, Lynn.
Lynn Turquette, 236 Northwest Valencia, Melbourne.
Welcome.
Couple things I just wanted to know if could go in the BPR, I believe it is. For one, they stated, well, they keep RVs and boats in there, which tower over a 6-foot fence. So they had told us before when they brought a paper by trying to get us all to sign that it was going to be an 8-foot fence. I know it creates a little bit more. They have to get another approval from the county for that, but that would help. So we don't have to look at it from our properties. We live right next to this property. The other thing is
They have non-floating cars.
the locking and unlocking of cars. They said, well, they're going to use the remotes just to flash the lights instead of the alarms. Subaru's lights do not flash when you hit that. They just don't. We own one. So that's still an issue. The trees in front, there's some beautiful oaks. There's 2 of them. And to keep the the area, the neighborhood, which we love, our street, looking good, so instead of a big old fence, at least there'd be these 2 big oaks still in the front. We would hope that that could be put in there.
They are offloading cars on the street.
And never in 6 years have they offloaded a semi in their back lot.
It's always on Valencia.
It's always on Valencia. We have pictures. And they get stuck.
It's probably why they want to do this.
Well, yeah, we're just hoping that they utilize this for 6 years. We've made issues with the county, and nothing's ever been done on their part. Until
building's been
still the
falling in.
3 days before the last meeting, nothing has ever been done. So, I mean, that's my concern, that it's not going to be followed up or followed through with. There's not going to be maintenance on this fence, and it's going to look the same way the other fence, if you drove behind there, you looked at that wall has been like that for years. It's horrible. I mean, you wouldn't want to live next door to it either. So
Is it a fence, or is it a block wall?
It's a block wall. It's on the back of their property.
Okay.
So, I mean, those are my main
Drainage.
concerns.
Drainage.
Well, the drainage, having all those cars in there, a lot of them are used cars. Want to make sure that they understand if they put gravel in, gravel doesn't perk. And that they have something suitable for the used cars they put in there that leak oil. We're all on a well system there. And so anything that's going in the ground, we'll end up drinking sooner or later.
Not to mention the flooding.
Yeah, and the flooding's a big problem on our street already. When it rains a lot, it all floods the front of our houses, and it's closed, so that's just going to create a lot more issue. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
That's all I got to say. Hope you guys look into it for us, please.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beverly Samuelson. State your name and your address, please.
I'm Beverly Bloomer Samuelson, and my address is 172 Northwest Valencia Road, right next to the dealership. The lot lines are right there. And my grandfather built our little house, which is now 60 years old, and everything has always been very good, except this. We would like to not have this rezoning go in because their behavior has not been very good, and I'm sure that that's not going to change it. They've neglected the property ever since they purchased it, and our neighborhood does not want rezoning. A list of my concerns, our concerns, are that the 3 exterior buildings that have been falling down for several years are still falling down. Nothing has been done. And the parking of these 30-plus cars and trucks and 2 broken-down motor vehicles, the homes and the boat storage that they've had there, and the employees using it for a parking lot. Also, this black wall that David just talked about is black with mildew and could certainly be cleaned or painted or something else on it. Also, the Australian pines in the back of their lot has been falling down. It's just a mess. It's just a mess back there. And it falls down on our property. My husband, who is now 85, has been cleaning up this mess for a long time. And then the people, the employees and the worker, they use their remotes with the panic alarms to locate their cars at all hours. Not good. And they also load and unload these huge car carriers on our little bitty road, which is very narrow with no sidewalks. And it's a pretty road. But a short time ago, a semi blocked the entire street for hours. They couldn't get in and couldn't get out. People couldn't get to work. Mail couldn't be delivered. But that's the way it was. So now they've been using it to try out their vehicles. So it's like a little racetrack in front of us. The employees and the customers trying out cars. And we have we don't have small children anymore, but there are some on our street across the road, and older children that walk to the end of the road to catch a bus. They have to be careful, and also we have senior citizens that walk, like us. So it's very dangerous with no sidewalks. So in the last couple of years, we've had 3 beautiful homes built on our lovely Valencia Road, and we don't want or need to have rezoning. So, thank you for listening to me.
You're quite welcome. And you both look great.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
hope I look that good when I get to be 70.
Well, Cheesehead's from Wisconsin, so.
Ah, that's what it must be.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in
We've
mind.
had 3 generations living in our little winter residence
Oh,
there.
excellent.
So,
Thank you for your input.
okay, so hopefully, yeah, thank you.
Pleasure of the board.
I think that applicant has an option to come up and rebut.
Sure. Mr. Reppinger.
Just briefly, and I'll talk about it. As far as the Mr. Turcott's concerns about the surface and any changes to the property itself, if anything, and this plays into Ms. Samuelson's concern as well, if anything, the planned binding development plan and what is planned for the property as far as the fencing and shielding and landscaping will beautify the site. There is an existing code issue with regard to the structures that are on the property. The applicant has worked with FPL to get electric out of there, and they are in the process right now of entering into agreements with the demolition companies to actually take down the existing structures that are in violation. So those issues will be resolved as part of this overall resolution and the implementation of the binding development plan. In addition, any surface materials or anything that is put down on the site will be done consistent with the code and what's allowed by staff and the county code. So with regard to the panic alarm issue and the searching of vehicles, I'll let the applicant address that specific issue. I know that we're aware of it because of what was raised at Planning and Zoning, and I think they're in the process of trying to address those issues with staff.
Yes, thank you. There was a couple other points raised that were of concern. One was the panic alarms, and I wasn't aware until recently that was happening. The store's open roughly 7 to 7, so I mean, to my knowledge, no one's out there when someone might be sleeping and doing that, but I can understand even during the day that there's a horn honking that might well be annoying. So we've instructed staff, just go out and find the car, because some cars, lights flash. There's used cars out there as well. They're not all Subarus. And it'll take a few moments more, but it's not a big deal to go out and find the car, because the easiest way, obviously, is to hit your clicker and the light's flashing, you know, that's the car I'm going to. But we certainly endeavor to be good neighbors, and we'll instruct staff to, in fact, just find the car and not have it beep. The other issue, in terms of cars racing up and down that road, employees certainly are instructed not to do that, because I think the road dead ends. It's a very residential road, and we certainly don't want cars racing up and down it, and I will reinforce with staff not to do that, and I would tell the neighbors I'd be happy to give them my cell phone number. They can call me if there's an issue with that, and believe me, we'll take care of it. And then in terms of customers, I mean, we certainly can instruct them not to go down there, but if they're out on a test drive, and sometimes they're out by themselves, I can't control, where they might choose to drive that car. I mean, hopefully most of them would not choose to do that and would heed, instructions on our part to do other than that. But I can't sit here and swear to you that a customer will never go up and down that road, because they can pretty much go where they, like on a test drive, but we can certainly encourage them not to do that. Is there any other concerns that were voiced that I can address?
Commissioner Pritchett.
I looked through the binding development agreement, and somebody brought up drainage,
Yes.
and I'm guessing, Ms. Fox, that you've worked through that, so there's going to be adequate drainage on whatever they're doing in the...
Any improvements that they make on that lot are going to have to meet the current county standards for drainage.
Okay, that was always a hot topic at my district, so I thought I'd ask
I'm sure,
about that.
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Isnardi.
And I think that's a good point. And I looked at it like, with these improvements, that's exactly what they would be, is that property would be improved, because you are sort of using it now. Now, I mean, I have several names here, and it's very clear, not just that you have the binding agreement, but that you talk about the 6-foot-high privacy fence.
Yes.
Where you have these signatures from 12 residents on Valencia,
Yes.
and some pretty close to the dealership.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you've explained the same things, and they're understanding the very short, very easy paragraph that you have written here. So, I mean, I would just ask, as a courtesy, could we get that back wall cleaned, maybe get that power washed?
Oh,
Maybe that would
absolutely,
please
yes.
the neighbors, too?
Yes, definitely.
But, because I'm sure you want to be a good neighbor as well.
Of
and-
course. And the other
Yeah.
fence is PVC, so it's not going to weather like block walls weather. I mean, those fences tend to look pretty good over long periods of time.
Right.
Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
There was mentioned about RVs and boats.
Yes.
Are y'all going to have RVs and boats there?
Occasionally we take them in on trade. There has been one RV that has been there over a period of time that we've kept there because we've used it at certain sales and whatnot. I guess the thought is that we may have that one there on occasion. We can move it perhaps to a different location up in the corner so it's not quite as obvious. And then anything else, boats, we take those on trade and then try to get them out of there as quickly as we can. And then occasionally we have the random employee that wants to store boats somewhere, and we might let them do that. But if that's an issue, we can certainly
You can just move it up
tell them
closer.
that's an issue. Yes.
Also, it mentioned an 8-foot fence. I'm not sure, is that possible?
In Section 60-2109 that deals with our fences, it does say that if there is a commercial property adjacent to residential, the commercial property can put up an 8-foot fence. So if the neighbors are looking for that, you could offer them 8 foot instead of 6.
Okay. I don't think, we have a huge issue with that one way or the other. I know sometimes wind loads on 8-foot fences are more than wind loads on 6-foot fences and things of that nature. So I'm kind of ambivalent one way or the other. If the neighbors would rather an 8-foot, it tends to look a little more, I don't know, commercial and whatnot than a 6-footer. But whatever the board would like to do, we're happy to do on that.
So you're okay with an 8-foot?
I am. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
not a big deal one way or the other to me.
Are you requesting that he increase the size of the fence to 8 feet?
Yeah.
Commissioner Isnardi, what do you think? It's your district.
I mean, it's another one of those situations where, again, because one person asked for it, now we're putting the cost onto the property owner, where 8 foot may actually look worse than a 6-foot fence, especially if it's a nice white fence and we're trying to keep everything conducive. I don't have a problem with it if it's the board's desire to go to 8 feet, but there is the wind load issue. That's the first thing I thought of. It was kind of funny to me that you said the same thing. But again, I'll go with the wishes of the board, but I think 6 foot is sufficient. And I don't think the difference between 6 and 8 isn't sufficient enough to ask the applicant to pay that extra cost.
I'll defer to you. It's your district.
I still appreciate the input from the board.
Okay.
We're all here. We
Yeah,
all have a say, but,
I know. But you've seen it. I haven't been there to look at it.
right.
So,
I've seen it also, and I'm kind of ambivalent about the 6 or 8 feet too, to be quite frank. My one problem with PVC fencing is, though, that it tends to get mildewed. And so from time to time, I would suggest that if that were to occur, that the neighbors might just contact somebody in the front office, and, a little squirt bottle with some Clorox or Clorox Plus or something cleans them right up, and a little hose, and you're good to go again. That's
Right.
the nice thing about PVC.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 4B, number 8,
with the binding development
with the
plan?
binding development plan.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Isnardi to pass this with the binding development plan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Pritchett. Anyone wish to vote no? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, we can go back to 4B1, cameraman. This is a request for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change a future land use to neighborhood commercial and a rezoning from RU19 to BU1A. This is an amended request. Initially, the application came in as a BU1 and a community commercial request. The applicant has amended that to be the lower neighborhood commercial and a restricted neighborhood retail commercial BU1A zoning. This property is in with the Port St. John Independent District area and was heard on January 11th, and the board unanimously denied the item. The item was also heard by the LPA on January 23rd, and it was also unanimously denied. And the only other thing that I'd like to offer is that the applicant has provided a binding development plan offering to limit the uses on the property in the BU1A zoning classification, and I would ask that he come up and explain those to us, put them on the record.
Okay, Carmen Ferrero. State your name and address, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Carmine Ferraro, Carmel Development, 3860 Curtis Boulevard, Port St. John. I am here tonight to ask you to consider approving a request for the applicant to rezone his residential property to a BU1A zoning. I want to give just a quick brief history of how we got to where we are tonight. We initially, the applicant initially was looking at vacating the drainage easement around his property where he owns the corner property, and there's a drainage easement that goes around two sides of his property. He then looked at what was involved in that, and because he's interested in selling his property, he no longer desires to live there because the area's become too busy as a residential property. He thought that he would have a better chance of selling it if he had a commercial zoning on the property. He contacted me, and he wanted to seek a BU1 zoning, which I told him would be a difficult thing to do in that community based on the history of that property having come before the board on other occasions. It had been denied. So we went to the Port St. John hearing, and we presented the case, and it was unanimously denied by the independent board. We listened very carefully to what they said, and I took all of their comments back to the owner, and I told him that if he really wanted to rezone the property, that the best he could hope for would be a BU1A, and that the vacation of the drainage easement was a very long and expensive process. He should probably abandon that idea as well. He initially had wanted to take his corner, the drainage easement, and the house he owns adjacent to that, and end up with a 1-acre corner zoned commercial. Again, because of the unanimous denial from the Port St. John and the community not being supportive of that, he agreed to amend it to a BU1A. Really feel like we listened very seriously to the Port St. John Independent District, which is there for the purpose of having that local community input. We had meetings with neighbors. We typically, bringing an application forward, go to the same list that receives the notification and invite those neighbors to come and meet with us so they can tell us what they are concerned about. There were a lot of concerns about a gas station on the corner, large commercial buildings. I assured them under the BU1A zoning that that would not be a possibility because we're now looking at 0.36 acres. So the very nature and design of the property in terms of what it could be used for, in terms of providing retention, parking and such, would severely limit the amount of larger uses and take them off the table. We also offered a binding development agreement and went through a series of different uses. However, the Port St. John Independent Board really wasn't interested at that point in considering that. So if this board will be willing to consider this amended petition tonight, then I would request that we table the decision, allow us to come back with a full binding development plan that we could present to you with the restricted uses. The bottom line, and I guess, you know, it's all about fairness. The owner of this property believes that because the property across the street directly to the east already has a BU1A zoning, that it's fair for him to ask for the same type of zoning. He has the corner directly adjacent to the west. The fact that he's no longer going for the BU1, the fact that he's willing to offer a binding development plan, there are going to be further restrictions that could be offered in that plan for fencing, buffers. However, again, the very nature of the property and the way the development criteria would lend itself, it's going to severely restrict what's going to go there. You're going to see a house converted to a gift shop, possibly some type of a dog grooming, but you wouldn't see any type of large retail uses there. So we would ask that you would give it serious consideration. We know that the independent board said no. We know that the LPA said no. We know that there are residents here tonight to speak against this. But we feel, in fairness, that since there already is a BU1A zoning, we're just asking to be treated the same as the neighbor is across the street that has that zoning. I'll go ahead and reserve the rest of my time if anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you. Julie Carroll. Welcome.
Hi.
Name and address, please.
Julie Carroll, 5013 Jamaica Road, Port St. John. I was here for the last meeting, and other things are going to come up too, but one of my main concerns, I'm right off that corner, and I'm a turnaround driveway, so I do see a lot of traffic come through there. That intersection is pretty small for the amount of traffic that's going through there already. I'm concerned more than anything, and this came up the last time too. There are a lot of children. This is a family area. There are a lot of children that come and go through that intersection. I know that there are crossing guards there, but that's only when school's in session. A lot of kids go through there to get to the Kangaroo, down the road, and that's my main concern right now, is the increase in traffic. If we have another area there for people to pull in and out of, there are a lot of traffic accidents there. I hear them from my backyard. So that's my concern, are the kids.
Is that it?
That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Stephen Bell. Thank you for coming. Name and address, please.
My name is Stephen C. Bell. I live at 5045 Cannoli Place, and I've been there since March of '91. I've seen a lot of development around that area, but I'm against any kind of development there. Because he's talking about the second house, well, I'm right behind it, and I can see in his backyard, and anything you put there is going to disturb my property, my value of my property, and I'm going to be there till I die, because I ain't going nowhere else. And it's going, I'm going to have no peace and quiet there. You have people running in and out on the property, businesses and stuff. And he's talking about the property across the street. Well, that just affects one homeowner over there. They got a drainage ditch there, outside, they got a homeowner with the business here, you got a homeowner there and a drainage ditch. And then behind that business, you got a drainage ditch behind it. So it don't affect nobody but the one homeowner. What you do to prove it there is going to affect me, it's going to affect the whole neighborhood there. And it's been such a quiet neighborhood there. And plus, the lady was up here forward about the safety issue of the kids. Well, that's a school crossing for the kids to go there from the school and stuff. Plus, you got a walkway all the way around that block, too, down that corner, so people can walk back and forth there. But I'm against any kind of improvement there, any kind of businesses in the commercial business. It should be left as it is, and the homeowner, he shouldn't bought the corner if he didn't want it. He should look at it before he bought it. I'm sorry about when you bought that corner lot, but he should investigate a little bit more and see what the traffic was around that area. And I feel sorry for the guy, but he's just going to leave us hanging if he going to sell as a business there, commercial. And this is the third time this has been brought up. It's just getting old. How many times this going to keep on going on and on? Can y'all just stop it? Just disapprove it and just put a cap on it or something? Just do away with it. I get too old to come up here all the time to do this. This is the third time now. It's twice with this homeowner. But like I said before, I'm against anything there. It should stay as it is, and that's what I feel my neighbors do too. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Shelley Myers.
How you doing? My name is Shelley P. Myers III. I'm U.S. Navy retired and a vet. I'm also 81 years old.
Mr. Myers, could you give us your address, please?
5005 Canoni Place.
Thank you.
Port St. John. It is directly behind where we are talking about. There is a 20-foot ditch between his backyard and ours. My wife and I have been married 56 years. We've had kids in the house for 55. We will have 3 still in the house when we die because we adopted 5 special needs. I can't see a business going in that yard. He also owns the house next to it. In other words, if you go west, he has both houses there, the one on the corner and behind you. And our kids will still be there because they cannot take a job. They can't go anywhere. They're special needs. We have a 55-year-old that's never been married, going to move in to take care of them once my wife and I are gone. And it just doesn't seem right to have a business there. True, there is a barbershop across the street, and people have trouble getting in and out when they go to the barbershop. Grissom and Fay is one of the busiest intersections you will ever see in your life. They have the kids going to and from school. They even come and go to the ballpark and the basketball courts up the way. There is a Kangaroo, there's a Family Dollar, there's a Subway, there's a Pizza Hut, there's a liquor store, all 2 blocks away from where this is. So I can't see having any more businesses in that corner that's going to increase more cars, more people coming in and out, and I just don't think it's favorable. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the cards I have. Pleasure of the board. Do you have any response? Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make a couple of brief comments. You received an agenda packet that on page 32, I provided you with a traffic count. And the traffic count from a 2007 study for the traffic signal was around, let me give you the exact count, 15,526 cars. The nearest traffic count to the to the east is 12,350, and to the west is 12,000, to the south is 12,740, to the north it's 96, and to the east, going into the deeper residential area, it's 6,460. As a commercial developer and a person who's been involved in commercial real estate for 25 years, what it shows me is that the denser traffic counts on Grissom, going back towards Fay and US 1, that this is an area in transition. And he is correct, the gentleman that got up and spoke, that there are more commercial uses popping up on Fay Boulevard. So the area is definitely in transition. When you read the BU1A zoning definition, BU1A restricted neighborhood retail commercial zoning classification encompasses land devoted to limited retail and personal services to serve the needs of nearby low-density residential neighborhoods. So this type of zoning classification was specifically set for this type of area, we believe, in transition. Also, regarding the traffic at the corner, it is signalized, it is controlled, and if people push the button and cross as told, it's a very safe intersection. You'll find in your packet on page 35 an email that we received from staff analyzing the intersection and its traffic accident history. And I'll just read the last part of it. Based on the review of crash history at this intersection, it is determined that there is no indication of high crash experience or that the intersection is unsafe. However, it is busy, and we agree that it is busy. It is for that reason that we believe this transitional area is ideal for a BU1A zoning classification on this property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to add a couple of details that
Sure.
might aid you in your discussion. The barber shop that has been mentioned across the street, I want to let you know that that property has been commercial since prior to 1988. It actually became BU1A at a time that they had a CUP for a daycare, and they were also requesting to do a church on that corner. Those were all denied, but they did for the barber shop, is that it carried over a BDP that limited him to 8 parking spaces. So on the BU1A piece that has the barber shop with the residential future land use, because the commercial zoning has been in place much longer, they did put a binding development plan on a previous request that limited that place to have 8 parking spots only. So there was an attempt at the time, as that property has come in for different uses, to limit the size, the scope. So they've limited it to 8 parking spaces. And I just want you to know that that was how that barber shop has evolved on that other corner.
Thank you. Commissioner Pritchett.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Fay Boulevard, I travel it quite often, and it's becoming a main road, and there's a lot of traffic on it, and I'm guessing in the future, Fay Boulevard almost doesn't know what it wants to be. You got a lot of residential, a lot of businesses on it, and I imagine in the future it's probably going to look more like a US 1. But right now, on that intersection, I listened to it because it made sense to me, the business is over there, but right at that intersection is where Fay Boulevard changes from 4-lane over to 2, which gives it a little bit more of a residential feel than the rest of Fay Boulevard. So therefore, I'm not going to support this tonight because I think that does make it a little bit different in determination, although there's some little businesses up on that road that way. But I don't think you have the ability to handle extra traffic load at this time. But I will say, you know, when they changed the personality of Fay Boulevard on that other side of Grissom, it might be something, you know, that we might have to consider, because I'm not sure how they're going to do it. I know they're going to have to do it, but it's going to change the personality of your driveways and front yards too. But I'm not going to support this tonight because of that, and I think it's not ready yet to become more heavy with businesses on that side of Fay. But you're a very nice man, Mr. Farrow, though.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Pleasure of the board. You have a comment?
I just I agree. My biggest concern definitely was going from the 4 lanes to the 2 lanes. And I really believe what Commissioner Pritchett said, too, that if they ever do go to 4 lanes, I think we really need to revisit it. So.
Commissioner Isnardi.
And I know it's usually not a condition of rezoning, but I think I would feel a little bit better about this if there was a better plan. Like if you said, this is what we're planning on doing here, because the barber shop probably fits nicely in that area. Because although you may have traffic, you're not going to have 200 cars in and out of there a day. 'Cause you can still have a small business and have a lot of traffic. So perhaps, providing something different may change Commissioner Pritchett's mind, may change my mind and others. But as it stands right now, I'm not comfortable rezoning.
Do we have a motion?
Is it a motion to deny?
If that's what you want.
Okay, that's my motion.
Just a minute, though. Do we have to do Complan change and then a separate one for zoning request, Ms. Fox?
Yes, it would be very important for you to do the 2 motions if you choose to deny, yes.
Okay.
And do you want to consider having our office bring back resolutions with findings of fact relating to the denials? So you'll close the public hearing, and then you'll direct us to come back. How long will it take you to do minutes? 2 weeks. So in March, maybe? What meeting do we have in March? March 2nd? Okay.
Okay, so what kind of motion do we need now?
You need the denials and then another motion to bring back the findings of fact on March
Okay, so
2nd.
Commissioner Pritchett, you want to
Make a motion.
make
to
a motion
deny?
for denial?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. So the denial is granted. And what's the next thing that we need?
Make a motion to bring back the finding of facts on March the 2nd.
Okay. Commissioner Pritchett has made a motion, and second by Commissioner Barfield, to bring back the finding of fact. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. It passes 5-0.
May I just clarify, we did 2 motions, one for the LPA and the zoning and the finding of fact, correct? Okay.
No, we did 2.
We did 2 total. This was
We need one, we need a future land use
We need a future
And
land
the-
use as well?
and the zone. We didn't do the zoning,
Okay.
so we need a motion for the same thing for zoning.
Nine to zoning.
I don't know which one you did first.
I just made a motion to deny. I don't know which one I did either.
You did the future land use first,
Okay.
as
Okay,
appropriate.
so,
The motion to deny the other one.
Okay.
okay, Commissioner Pritchett makes a motion to deny the zoning request. Second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We good now? Okay.
4B2, David and Michelle Murphy. This is a request to change the zoning classification from RU19 to RU11 on .94 acres. This is in the MIMS area. This rezoning, if approved, will allow the applicant to reconfigure the property and build 3 single-family homes. This was approved unanimously by P&Z. Overall, the property could yield 5 total units. Since it looks to be his plan to do the 3 single-family, the board may wish to do a binding development plan to limit him to the 3 lots.
David Murphy?
David Murphy, 3650 Grant Line Road, Mims, Florida, 32754. I was just going to build 2 residential homes on that.
Okay.
I was going to position it parallel to the other one facing Old Dixie because the water line, that's where the water connection is. I wasn't going to do 3 because then I have to do a binding development and all that, so.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
So let me be clear, you're only going to do 2? Not
1
3?
more. There's 1 existing already. I'm going to do 1 more, correct?
So it's only going to be 2?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
you don't need a for approval for 3 units, you just need.
Right, now I need a binding development plan, that runs into, they said $8,000 or $10,000, and the property's not, the lot's worth like $10,000, I mean, it's not worth it.
Ms. Fox?
Let me just clarify. The binding development plan is not a subdivision, which is, I think, what you mean, the $8,000 to $10,000. A binding development plan is just simply written agreement between you and the board that limits or puts a condition on your approval. It's not the subdivision $8,000 to $10,000.
Okay, I just spoke with somebody in the building department, and that's what they told me, you have to get an attorney involved.
That's fine. That's fine. So if you're really only going to add, you're taking an existing property with 2 homes and you're reconfiguring to add 1 additional home.
There's 1 home there now. I'm going to add 1 home.
You're going to add 2. Okay, that's what I want to know. So it's 3 total?
1.
One.
Going to be 2 total, 1 more.
Okay. Okay, so then it wouldn't be a subdivision because you're not creating 3.
Correct.
Or more than 2. Okay.
Okay, that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
She actually answered my question, so I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, so if we have no questions, pleasure of the board.
I move to approve. Ms. Fox, can I ask you real quick, did you want a written agreement from the gentleman that he won't go over that limit?
I don't think that we need one.
Okay. I just moved to approve then.
Commissioner Pritchett makes a motion to accept this, and second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
For B3, Jamie and Holly Bennell. This is a request to change the zoning classification from AU to RR1 on 1 acre in the Cocoa area. This, if approved, will allow the applicant to build a single-family residence, and this was approved unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Okay, we have no cards. Pleasure of the board.
I move to approve.
Commissioner Pritchett moves to approve this motion, and Commissioner Barfield seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. Passes 5-0.
Okay, 4B4, Gary R. Smith. This is a request to change the future land use from agricultural to residential 1 and a rezoning of GU to RR1 on 2.06 acres in the MIMS area. This is for the purposes of having a single-family residence. This is also in the MIMS small area study that was conducted by the board in 2007, which designated that area with large lot future land use designations. Right now it is at a 1 to 5 acre unit development, but we have seen several little parcels that were less than the 5 acres that were created before that future land use came into place, and those are the ones that we're seeing come in to get the rezoning to do the single-family residence, but they have to also change the future land use based on what we had left there as a study in 2007. So they need both a small-scale change to go to Res 1 and from GU to RR1.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
Don't we need two motions? One for the small-scale
Yes,
residential?
please.
Okay, so yours is,
I move to approve the small scale.
okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett to approve the small-scale residential.
I'll second.
And Commissioner Barfield seconds. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, now we need one for zoning.
Move to approve for the zoning.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett to approve the zoning motion. Second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
4B5 is a withdrawn item. We don't need a motion on that, so we'll go to 4B6, all space storage. This is a request to change the zoning classification from PIP to BU2 on 6.27 acres in the Cocoa Canaveral Groves area. They just wish to enjoy the smaller setbacks of the BU2 zoning classification. Just for the board's information, PIP requires a 50-foot front setback, 50-foot side, and a 25-foot rear. The BU2 zoning classification would allow them to reduce the front setback to 25 feet, the side to 15 or 5 if next to commercial, and 15 in the rear.
Pleasure of the board.
I move to approve.
Commissioner Pritchett moves to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
4B7, CNL Baytree LLC. This is a request for a conditional use permit for the on-premise consumption of alcohol, which is for full liquor, in conjunction with restaurant in the BU1 zoning classification on 7.53 acres. The site has recently been site planned by the county, and they're preparing for approximately 9,000 square foot of restaurant space at this location. I'll let the board know that the P&Z did recommend unanimous approval, and for further clarification, when they come in for their individual alcohol state licenses, we will get the unit numbers for the restaurant. As this site was newly developed, they didn't have those at the time that they applied. But as we come in for the alcohol sign-offs, we will make sure that the units are identified.
Do we need to have a motion subject to that information?
I don't think so.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a
Motion to
motion.
approve?
Okay. Okay, you first.
Commissioner Isnardi makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Barfield seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay. So now we are going to skip 4B8 because we've already taken care of that one, and we're going to 4B9, Bauman. This is a request to change the zoning classification from RR1 and RU17 to all RU17 on 1.52 acres. This is located in the Melbourne area, and the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval. And again, this is to RU111, not RU17. He had amended his request, so the P&Z recommended unanimous approval as RU111, just for clarification.
Okay, we have no cards. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Isnardi makes a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Clerk's office has a question, please, regarding item 4B8.
Okay.
We had one motion. The motion was for zoning, but there's also a small scale on that. So we've been taking
Agreed.
two motions.
If we did not make a second motion, we need to do that.
That's what we need.
Okay, and what does that motion need to be?
This is 4B8. This would to approve the small-scale plan amendment, 16S.09. Is that correct, Ms. Fox?
I would say that they've done the future land use, they need to do the zoning. And that does have the binding development conditions on there that we talked about with Cliff Reppinger.
Which one?
It's 4B8.
Okay.
So do we need a small-scale amendment?
It says-
Motion?
We said...
No.
Right.
Oh, zoning. Okay. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to make, for zoning for item number 4B8 with the binding agreement.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Commissioner Isnardi. Second.
Just to clarify, this is to deny, right?
No, this is
This is
an old
we're back on
item.
4B8.
This is the
We
one we
just,
already
we missed
approved.
one. I apologize.
Okay, good, got it. All right.
So we need a second. Second by Commissioner Barfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
keeping us on our toes.
Yes. 4B10, this is the Home Depot on Merritt Island. They have requested a conditional use permit this is for truck rental. This is in a BU1 zoning classification on 9.37 acres, 9.37 acres. The Planning and Zoning Board approved this with the conditions that were approved or asked for by the MIRA Board, Merritt Island Redevelopment Area Board. They had 3 conditions. The first one was to park all rental equipment with the rental trucks in the area designated on the approved site plan that is to be clearly marked with signage and striping. The second one was no more than 10 rental trucks at a given time on the property. And 3, after-hour drop-off of vehicles must be in the designated area, and any outside of the area will be moved to the approved location at the start of the Home Depot business. And that vote was unanimous.
Okay, we have some cards.
I just want to say, disclose that I have looked at the property, walked through it, and looked at everything there.
Duly noted. James Rossich. You may speak, sir.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Name and address.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is James Rossick, and I'm agent for Home Depot USA. This is store number 234. It is at 200 North Courtney Parkway. Just for clarification, I would like to point out one thing, though. The staff report mentions that it is for truck and trailer. It is only for trucks. And there will be an average of about 5 to 6 trucks on there at one time. This is not a storage type of a situation. This is more of a transfer operation where a customer rents a truck in the store or online. It is dropped off in the Home Depot parking lot. Then when the customer will bring it back, and then it's transferred somewhere else. Penske has a regional facility in Orlando, and that's where the trucks will be coming and going from.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is that all you have?
Well, would you like for me to, are there any questions about how the operation works or anything like that? Or I also do have there's an assistant manager with the store here also, if there are any other questions about the store.
Is that Kelly Rodriguez?
Yes.
Okay. Looks like we have no questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's discuss.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
And Ms. Rodriguez, if you're only going to add to that, we'll just hold off and let's see where we go with this. Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Barfield, you have the floor.
I'm okay with this.
Turn your mic
What
on.
you just said. Sorry. I'm okay with this, but what I'd like to add in this with some conditions, recommendations that Myra put in, but I'd also like to add to it to clarify that there's no trailers. You okay with that? Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and make a motion then that we approve with the recommendations that are posted here. In addition, number 4 would be, and there would be no trailers.
Mr. Barfield has made a motion to approve this subject to his restrictions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
This next item, 4B11, we weren't sure that the applicant was going to make it. Is there someone here to represent Mr. Kottman? Could you come up, sir, and introduce yourself? This request, 4B11, is for removal of an existing binding development plan. Through the process, this is in the North Merritt Island area, they were able to work out not the removal, but an amended binding development plan instead of the complete removal of the existing binding development plan, which limits the uses in BU2, which you can see are listed on your agenda for the binding development plan. We need to have someone here who's authorized to act as the applicant, and you're not Mr. Kottman.
He is about 5 minutes away. Just text me. He's on 95 now. Just got off on the exit. So if
So
there's
we
some
could
questions
go-
or concerns, I can address them.
We could move to some other items. Just pause.
We don't have any other items. Oh, we have 5A. Okay, you can have a seat. We can go to 5A and come back.
Thank you.
Sir, if you want to speak, could you fill out a card in the back, please? Okay. 5A.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this is a request for a time extension for the Central Florida Animal Reserve. They are the ones that have the big cats currently in Canaveral Groves. They've been working with the Board of County Commissioners since they were unable to find a property within Brevard County to relocate the animals. They have secured property in Osceola County and have been working diligently to improve that site to make the site ready for the transfer of the animals. This has been a rather drawn-out process, but I'm pleased to hear that the organization has made tremendous progress within the last year. And I invite Dr. Blue down to speak to the item, but he has represented to me and has shown us photographs showing the significant improvements to the property. He believes that the property would be ready for occupancy by the animals by June. However, summer months are not the optimum time to move the animals, and so they're asking for another one-year extension through to the beginning of March of 2018 in order to give them the opportunity to move the animals during a little bit cooler time of the year. Mr. Blue, if you'd like, Dr. Blue, if you'd like to come down and speak to the item, you're welcome to do so.
While you're coming down, I'd like to disclose that my staff visited your facility recently. I didn't. I wasn't able to, sorry to say.
I'm sure you have a very busy schedule. My name is Thomas Blue, and I live at 308 Lansing Island Drive. I think Ms. Sabrino represented pretty well what we had said, and I believe all of you got the letter, and we spoke with your staff as well. So we're making good progress, and we should get it taken care of, hopefully in the fall when the cool weather strikes again. So we have a lot of small items to take care of, but we're not going to be ready by the deadline this year. So I don't really have anything further that I need to add unless you have questions for me.
No questions? No questions.
Okay. Thank you.
I have Sharon Brindley. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, pleasure of the board.
I make a motion to approve the extension.
Commissioner Barfield, you had a question? No. Okay. Commissioner Zanardi has made a motion to approve this extension. Do we have a second?
Do you have a second?
Second from Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir.
This is that card you asked for.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving back to 4B11. Mr. Jackson?
Good evening. My name is Ricardo Jackson. I live at 1209 Heritage Acres Boulevard in Rockledge, Florida. I think it was described earlier as to what we were attempting to do with this property. It is zone BU2. We were extending the binding development plan to include all of BU2 with the exceptions that are listed here. It was strictly boats and boat storage initially, so we asked to be expanded to the full use of BU2.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
We have any comments?
We don't have the property owner or an authorized person to act as an applicant. Mr. Jackson is just here on behalf of Mr. Cotman, but we don't have the paperwork signed, so I'm hoping he comes in the door any minute.
How about if we take a 5-minute break? Is he close enough? Do you think he can make it within 5 minutes? Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
Can you get a little closer to that mic?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there you go.
Did he give us his address? Mr. Cotman, did you give us your address?
My address is 253 Pebble Hill Way, Rockledge, Florida, 32955. And I'm here in regards to the property at 1625 North Courtney Parkway. 6025 North Courtney Parkway. And requesting that to extend the BU2 usage from just boats and boat storage, boat repair and boat storage, to all BU2 usage, excluding the ones listed in the new drafted BDP.
Okay. Christine, is this a new light? Is that a new light?
No.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
All right, you're okay with all of these, the recommendations from North Merritt Island? Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, well, I'll make the motion that we approve with the North Merritt Island BDP recommendations or amendment.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Barfield makes a motion to accept this request for the BDP and including the amendments. We have a second by Commissioner Isnardi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it here.
Okay, I have no public comments. We'll move into board reports.
I have an item on 61. We have a request to advertise for an executive session for February 21st.
Oh, okay.
To discuss a condemnation action, Brevard County versus B West Townhomes et al.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll accept the motion for the executive session.
So moved.
Commissioner Barfield makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have Commissioner Isnardi, seconds. Anyone wish to vote no? Passes 5-0. Okay, we good for board reports now? All righty, moving right into board reports. Mr. Whitten. Ms. Bentley.
No report.
Commissioner Barfield.
In light of Mr. Whitten's resignation today, I would like to, Mr. Stockton, I'd like to ask you, do we have past RFPs from the, when we had to do this before, look for a new
Yes,
county
sir.
manager?
The last time you went out on RFP was in April, or actually in 2009, and so we do have that RFP for you guys to either mark up or edit as you see fit, but it would almost be ready to go, just obviously require some updating.
Okay, can we go ahead and get that going? I mean, do we have to make a motion on that?
Do you want an RFP of what?
RFP for a search firm to go out, to find a search firm to go out and search for the candidates.
Okay. You're making the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second. For discussion?
Well, we're going to put out an RFP. That would bring us, okay.
Well, the motion is for them to develop the RFP, they can bring it back to us.
Right, they would bring it back to us.
I'll bring it back on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Isnardi.
I, at least at this point, would like to consider all options before deciding to go out to RFP. for this? I mean, because we haven't even, I mean, has everybody officially accepted the resignation and the terms of the resignation? And, you know, this just happened this afternoon, so I just want to take a deep breath and have, you know what I mean? Step back from it and maybe discuss it more on what we expect in the RFP. I know, you know, he may be able to prepare it. I'm sure he's fully confident, but we have some time if we all agree to the terms of the resignation letter being April 30th.
I was, you know, from a time factor, I figured he could go ahead and get us one, and then we could look at it, and then go from there, whatever the board wants to do.
Well, I would concur with that, because we have 90 days. He's been gracious enough to give us that amount of time. So I think this is an extremely important decision for us to make, and I think that we need to get ahead of it. So I would think it's appropriate to start the RFP process. All we're doing here is approving the idea and to bring it back to us, and then on Tuesday we'll discuss it. So do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Barfield, a second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Opposed. Nay.
Okay, we have a nay by Commissioner Tabaya. Passes 4-1.
I have no further report.
Okay. Commissioner Tabaya.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple quick motions. Come to light the Cocoa Expo Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing, the debt to the county and past due taxes. With a little bit of research, it looked as though in September 2016, the previous board took about $770,000 out of their binding development plan, and said the county would cover that. According to staff, about $5,000 of that has already been spent. So I would like to have a motion to request abatement of county spending on that, whatever the remaining portion of that $770,000 is, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and that's a motion to do that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion to put a stop to that excess, the monies that have not been spent. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Now, discussion, Commissioner Barfield.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear from Mr. Denninghoff what the status is and all the...
Commissioners, at the time that expenditure was approved by the board, we had advised the board that there was going to be some permitting that was going to be required, and so we had to secure consulting services for that. The permitting is principally associated with the DOT work in the DOT right-of-way on 520 and 524. That is the only work that's been done on the project, or initiated on the project to this point. There's been no other work besides that permitting effort. The consultant is working on that. We have paid, I think, one invoice on that, and there's been a fair amount of additional work that's been done on that. The entire task order for that, I think, was $4,950, and that's out of the $770,000. So the remainder remains completely unspent or unencumbered in any way. Upon finding out that about the Cocoa Expo situation, I directed my staff immediately to assure that there was no other expenditures that were going to be taking place. I consulted with the county attorney's office to find out what our obligations were regarding the proceeding with construction, and until further instructions, I hadn't planned on doing anything more. I have not told the consultant to discontinue work at this point.
Commissioners, and let me just add to John. And so we did meet on Monday, Mr. Denninghoff, myself, Eden Bentley, the deputy county attorney, and the county attorney, and actually had talked, as John said, about not obviously continuing with the roadway as he was in bankruptcy. And I just want to clarify. So the motion would be, even if he comes out of bankruptcy or if something is agreed to, the motion is to actually not to go forward regardless of his bankruptcy situation.
Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Tabaya. Too many names to keep
No,
track.
it's fine. Yes, that would be the motion. It appears as though this spending was initially in the BDP, and the board made the decision to pull it out. So, and I wish the Cocoa Expo the absolute best, but should they get out of bankruptcy and pay the property taxes that they owe the county, then I would certainly welcome them to come up and discuss it. But at this point, I certainly would like to request the abatement until they do that.
Commissioner Nardi.
Stockton, can I ask a quick question? And
Do you have anything to ask?
rather than ask, I mean, I have to ask your opinion, rather than, would it be more prudent to put this on hold as opposed to completely stopping it? I mean, I don't know the financial situation of that organization. I know that they've filed, but I don't know how dire it is. So I'm nervous if they're able to come out of it, if it's,
Yeah, I think, as I heard Commissioner Tobias, the intent is to put it on hold with an ability for the applicant to come back and request funding, a reconsideration of the funding if he gets out of his predicament. So it's on hold because you guys have not talked about a reallocation of those dollars. So that would be the way I would look at it.
so do we need to amend the motion, or we just, how
That would be up
best
to,
advised to go forward?
Commissioner Tobias to make the amendment, to amend his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to, just the abatement. So in other words, just to stop the future ability for the Cocoa Expo to receive those funds. Not reallocation, because quite frankly, I don't know where they would go. But I just want to make sure until they get out of their situation and until they fully pay their taxes, that they do not have access to any more of that $770,000. So again, more than welcome to come to the board when they do get out of that, but I don't think it would be prudent to use tax dollars on a company that is not paying their property tax. So again, it's merely an abatement.
And so we would reserve those dollars that were dedicated to that roadway.
Commissioner Pritchett has the floor.
We're not in any danger of this being spent right now anyways, correct, because of the bankruptcy?
We did not have a schedule for the start of the construction, so we weren't about to spend it. We don't have any orders or any materials that have been ordered or paid for in any way, shape, or form, other than that permitting effort with the consultant. What I would assume is that if we have future allocations that we have available, we could remind the board that those funds are there being held for that purpose, and then the board could decide if they wanted to spend them elsewhere or continue to hold it for some period of time to give Cocoa Expo an opportunity to sort of come out of the situation they're in. I don't know exactly when that next opportunity will be, but there will be one, I'm sure.
I think just for this governing board to have a easier time if something does miraculously happen, I'd be more comfortable to put it on hold for now and have it come back before the board at that time, if anything resurrects from the dead on this. But I think that would be, I think I'd be more comfortable with that right now than just completely making the change and untying our hands so that we can't move forward if something good happens.
Correct. Based on my understanding of the motion, we would be just holding those funds basically in reserve. They're not in reserves right now. We could actually move them into reserves, but we would not spend the money. As far as I'm concerned, if that motion passes, the board's directed us not to spend it. And so I would only suggest that allowing the completion of the consulting services would be a good idea. We'll pay for virtually all of it if we stop now, even if we, rather than, I would suggest that the difference between stopping now and letting it finish in value is going to be very, very minimal.
I think that would be wisdom to complete the project you're already involved in.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner Tobias actually said excluding the permit expenses. So I think we were we're fine on the, John is saying consulting, but he's talking about the permitting.
Yes, that's the permitting effort. That's correct.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Barfield.
Yes, ever since I've been on this board, which is almost 2 years going on 10, it seems like Cocoa Expo has come up every time, and it's been a lot of problems. However, I don't see them here. I don't know that they were even informed we were talking about them here. And I think that's, in the interest of transparency, I believe it's important if we're going to do something that affects them, I think they need to be informed and be here. So, you know, and I need to ask legal opinion too. If we do something like this that impacts them without them even being notified or being here, is that an issue?
Well, what we did at the...
Turn your mic on.
At the September meeting, what you did was you removed the funding requirement from the binding development plan. They were required to do it before. Now there is not any document requiring you to proceed, so you are not technically required to notify them. You may if you choose to.
Commissioner Tobias, would you consider offering them an opportunity to come before the board?
Absolutely. Once they pay their property taxes, I find it very difficult that we will give a company the ability to access $765,000 of taxpayer money when they're in the rears on their own taxes. So, you know, whether or not they're here, it just is not prudent. We're not taking those resources away. We're still providing the opportunity for that organization to make the required changes, get in the right position. But it is my understanding right now that Cocoa Expo, in the rears to taxes, as well as electric companies, consulting companies, paving companies, it goes on and on, fixes the concerns they have and then comes to us to ask for that. Again, remember, in the initial binding development plan, they agreed to cover this expense. So we're not changing anything from the initial binding plan. Now, again, it was pulled out in September 2016, but we did not have the obviously the knowledge. And the reason this happened so quickly is I wanted to make 100% sure that I just read about this in the Florida Today. So thank you, Florida Today, for keeping us abreast of what's going on, to cut off that source of funding, because it's my understanding that they have the ability to grab those resources right now.
I'll take that as a no.
That is, they can come back later, but it's, again, an abatement.
Yeah, and just let me clarify, the roadway improvements are being made by the county, so what you're stopping is the county from making the roadway improvements.
Right. It's not, the monies were not available to Cocoa Expo. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Tobias to withdraw funding for the road work that the county was committed to, and we had a second by Commissioner Isnardi. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
One more motion, Mr. Chair.
You have the floor.
Thank you. There was a resolution passed, 2016-007, that pretty much handcuffed future commissioners. It takes merely the discussion of CRAs off the table. And you, Mr. Chair, tasked us with finding funding sources for transportation. And in fairness and in leadership and in foresight, you voted against this resolution because you wanted the discussions to not be shut down. So I really appreciate the leadership that you brought forward when you, though we're not in the majority, but you voted no, that we should have the ability merely to discuss. This is not the removal of CRAs. This is not the defunding of CRAs. This is not the changing of CRAs. This just resolution handcuffs 3 new board members that haven't had the ability to discuss this at the meeting, so all I'm asking for is a resolution voiding resolution number 2016-007, so we can bring up CRAs in future meetings, and that is the motion, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Barfield, you have the floor.
Yes. When this came up originally, every meeting, it seemed like CRAs came up, wasn't on the agenda. It came up, someone would talk about it, wanted to make a vote, and that was a reason for this. And as you'll notice in the bottom part, it says, until otherwise directed by majority vote of the county commission, county manager is hereby directed not to place any item on the county commission agenda that addresses the funding, blah, 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 of CRAs and all that. So the purpose is to make sure it gets on the agenda. So if you want to put it on the agenda, I mean, I'm fine with putting it on the agenda to discuss it. So that's what this is for. So if you want to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, that's fine with me. Let's just vote right now to put it on the agenda. Yeah.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Isnardi.
Yeah, I obviously agree with this because CRAs have always been an issue with me as well, and we do good work in some and not so good work in others. I was really amazed when this happened, and I understand, there was some issue with people bringing it up, and perhaps it wasn't during the correct time, which I didn't know all the details, but I get a little nervous when we start enacting ordinances that require the majority of any governing body to shut down the conversation. So again, I think putting things on the agenda are the way to go, especially things that are important. I mean, you don't want to bring up stuff during commission business that's big and that takes time to think and plan through. So I'll be 100% behind this as well.
Commissioner Pritchett.
I've been watching the programs for a few years, and I live in Titusville, and I'm up front with you. I support CRAs. Up where we are, they've been a real lifesaver in our community. And so, I'm not going to hide any of that from you. But here's the problem with this, is you guys would call CRAs every week. We'd have to change our work schedules. I had a daytime job. I couldn't get up here. We didn't have enough time to get up and speak. The government would have to shut down to try to get up here. And it became very cumbersome just to get day-to-day work done. So I wouldn't mind maybe voting down the road to put this on the agenda. I think we can do that as where we're going, but I do not want to get back in that spot again where we're pulling all these CRAs around and making them show up to try to defend it. So I wouldn't mind if you guys want to put it on the docket later, but I want to throw this out. We have so many changes coming on right now, and we're doing the ethics workshop. The city manager is going to be leaving us, county manager. Sorry, I'll probably get that right when you leave. So I would like to set a time out in the future that we give everybody time to prepare for the discussion, maybe go to a workshop sometime in March. I wouldn't mind that, but I don't even think we should necessarily throw it on next week, but give everybody a couple weeks because we're going to have everybody scrambling trying to get things together.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Barfield.
This is the specific reason why we did this. This was not on the agenda. The public didn't even know we were going to discuss this, and that's kind of the reason for this. We had this happening a lot, and it's just important that the public can see, and just like Commissioner Pritchett was saying, people would come from all over when we were going to talk about CRAs. It's just like any other issue. They need to have the time to know about it, to be up to speed, and then be able to come to it. So I would suggest, I agree with that. I suggest, I have no problem discussing it, but it needs to be on the agenda so the public has every opportunity to be here and respond to it.
Commissioner Isnardi.
I don't think, I think if it begins to be a little ridiculous or we're talking about things, that aren't included on the agenda or aren't advertised early enough and it becomes a problem, I think we can readdress it. But this is simply an issue that says that we're allowed to put it on the agenda, or that we're actually allowed to discuss it. Again, if it gets silly and we're not getting anything done and we're taking up staff's time and we're causing a lot of difficulty unnecessarily, then we're not doing a good job anyway. So, it will be judged by how how we react. And if we're not doing the right things, the votes will probably be here to stop again the discussion, which again, I'm a little nervous about, but I mean, I don't think that we should stop the conversation. I just think we have to be methodical about how we do it. I mean, obviously, if we have a CRA item, we don't have every CRA board and every budget on every agenda. I mean, that would be ridiculous. We'd need a separate meeting for that. Or perhaps we have a workshop for that, where we dedicate those hour or two for that purpose. But, I mean, to completely, for any governing body to completely disallow the discussion, I mean, you probably, I don't know, I just think there could have been a better way. Perhaps there wasn't. I mean, I wasn't on the board. I watched quite a few meetings, and I understand frustrations, but I think there was frustrations on both ends.
Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, this resolution only allows us to discuss CRAs. I did not know, in all honesty, that a resolution could handcuff future commissions. And it says right here in the resolution, whereas currently composed. So, you know, we've had 60% of the commission switch over, and I agree. I'm certainly not here to waste any folks' time, but Chairman Smith, you took a leadership role and tasked us with finding resources that could go to our failing infrastructure. And you know, we have to look at the numbers. CRAs come to the tune of $4.6 million out of our revenue budget, general revenue budget. So this is, you know, a big chunk that we need to at least investigate, find out if it's being spent wisely, correctly, and prioritize. And again, I thank you for standing up last year and saying, no, we should have open discussion, because by keeping this closed, we are taking discussion off the table. And I think that this is just a very positive way, and if we are to do anything by resolution in the future, I imagine it certainly would be noticed in a timely fashion, so the CRAs would have the ability to come and discuss the varied issues. But I just want to be very, very clear. All my resolution does is allow any one of us or a member of the public to put a CRA item on the agenda, because right now we do not have that ability, and I think that's probably not the right way to go. So with that, I would ask for your continued support as we investigate the avenues to make Brevard's infrastructure more viable.
So make your motion.
I'd like to make a motion to void resolution number 2016-007 and allow County Commission to add CRA items on the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have the motion, we have the second. My question is, how much notice are you intending? Because one of the problems I saw before, and even though I supported the fact that I think you should be able to bring up a CRA or any other subject, but I don't agree that you should be able to just do it at the last minute and not give anybody enough time to look at it. So my suggestion would be to say timely. Timely would be maybe a week in advance.
Mr. Chair, we have policies in place that I've been briefed about as to when not only staff but commissioners can place stuff on the agenda, and I'd be more than willing to look at policy, because I don't think we should single out CRAs or anything. And if you're interested in changing policy,
I'll agree with that. I agree with that.
I've got no problem, and I look forward to you bringing that up. And you know what? I will fully support changing policy so we give more heads up. But I don't want to single out CRAs. I think it should be across the board.
Okay.
So, you know, would I comply with policy? Absolutely correct. Would I be in favor of looking at future policy for a week to 10 days or 2 weeks, as you say? Well, that's your pleasure to bring that up, and in all honesty and in full transparency, I would support that. And the only reason I put these on here is because of the two motions. It was one, because a bankruptcy just popped up So I had no forewarning on this, and I've been looking at CRAs for quite some time, and I was informed by staff very recently that I did not have the ability to put a CRA item on the agenda, and this was the only way that I would do it. So as quickly as I could, that's what I put on. But again, this does not change CRAs in any singular way from the creation, for the dissolution, for the defunding. But again, let's treat CRAs like everyone else and change that policy and give folks more time. We're here for we're here for 4-year terms, and I have no problem for giving folks more notice.
Well, here's the deal I'm going to make with you. I'll agree with this, and I want you to follow up with a policy resolution that would allow more time for the introduction of a future resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I'm going to leave that burden on you. I'm working very hard on looking at CRAs as a way to increase transportation funding. I'm getting ready for the ethics workshop that you were kind enough to vote in favor of. I have a lower staff as we had one person leave. So, and also that many of my policy or resolutions, I think, you've seen go down in flames. So I would encourage you to run with that, and if it's anything like what you say, providing a little more notice, you will have my support, and I look forward to your leadership as you bring that forward.
Okay, moving right along. Do we have Commissioner Pritchett?
I would like to see a change of policy if last minute. Thank you, Mr. Tobias. That was a good suggestion. And maybe if we had that in place, this wouldn't be so uncomfortable. But, and a matter of fact, I was talking about it now, putting it on gives everybody time. The CRAs are about to come, I think they're about to get all the reports ready, I think, to bring to the commission soon. I know we're working on it at District 1. So as we're moving forward with this, and just because we're looking at for the aspect of how to maybe dismantle them for funding, I think we need to give everybody time to come and present their cause. So if we're going to do this, I would feel more comfortable throwing together another workshop, spending the day, letting the CRAs come out and talk about all the things they have going on, and really doing a good listen through of everything that they're bringing to the table and what it is we're exactly looking at, instead of, just having reactions like this. And I'm just telling you, from our end, it got very encumbersome trying to drop everything you had and get up here every meeting because it was announced Friday afternoon at 12 o'clock. And it's just hard to do. And we're talking CRAs, you're not talking about regular agenda items. You're probably talking about 200 people that are affected, that have got to find a way to get up here and change their schedule. So just on that, I'm not real sure that it is fair to just be able to, not that you're doing that with us, Mr. Tobias, because you're wanting a conversation, but if we're going to make those kinds of changes, I think it qualifies for discussions from everybody involved.
Commissioner Isnardi.
I was just going to say that, again, if between the two of you can come up with a policy as far as public notice, which would probably be where I would lie too, as far as giving public notice. This is just to allow us to discuss it, because right now we can't even talk about it. We have to make a motion to repeal this or void this resolution because we're not even allowed to talk about it at all, which is just bizarre to me. But I get it. I mean, I understand everybody's argument for why that happened, but this isn't making any decisions at all. And even if I was 100% in favor, for example, of changing an existing CRA or defunding a CRA, and I thought I had all the facts, I would myself give ample opportunity and would not feel comfortable even moving forward until I've heard the entire story. So I would never put that burden on staff or on any agency to be expected to come before us within, 5-6 days to get all their financials together, to get all their, attorneys together if need be, their board. I mean, I would allow for that. I mean, especially something that large. I mean, you would want to make sure that we have all of the information. It would probably take me a week just to research my own information myself to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So I guess, a promise may sound weak, but you have a promise from me that I'll make sure that there's ample time, for us to make especially any major decisions on CRAs.
Duly noted, and I appreciate that. Mr. Whitten.
Mr. Chairman, this is probably more appropriate after you do have a motion on the table, but you do have operating rules via resolution, and so after you dispense with the motion, I think it's just merely another, it's direction to staff to amend your board operating policies to address timely placement of items on the agenda.
Okay. Will we need a motion for that?
Just give direction to
Okay. You have direction. Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Tobias, second by Commissioner Isnardi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
We have a vote of 3-2. It passes. Opposing, Commissioner Barfield and Commissioner Pritchett.
May I have authority to bring a resolution back to
Absolutely.
rescind Resolution 2016 and present it to the chair?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Isnardi, board report.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Pritchett.
Yeah, I have one thing. I know Mr. Whitten put in his resignation, but I want to maybe consider that if we offered him a pay raise, if he would maybe consider staying. He's such a good county manager, and you know what? We really don't pay him what he's worth. He came on for a cut amount at the time, and we're not going to find a better one. And I just think if it would be a consideration for the gentleman, if he would consider it, I think it would be a great advantage for our county to be able to retain him if he would consider that.
I would agree with that as well.
Sorry, Stockton, that's 3.
Commissioners, I appreciate the support and the effort. I've made a commitment to Eastern Florida State, and so, again, I appreciate the effort. It's been almost 23 years here and 26 years in county government, and so I'm looking forward to the new challenge that's over at Eastern Florida State. It allows me an opportunity to, as I have said to Dave Berman, to still be value added to the community and not in county government but in higher education, and I wouldn't be sitting before you, and my brothers wouldn't be as successful as they are without higher education, being sons of a cab driver. And so I'm looking forward to the new challenge. I think it's time for a new challenge. There are some wonderful and exciting things going on at Eastern Florida State, and so I would do all I can to transition you all to the new manager coming in, but I think it's a time for the new challenge that is ahead of me. So thank you very much.
You are a champion, sir. Thank you.
And I would like to say I appreciate all that you've done. You've been immeasurably helpful to me, and I wish you all the best. Okay. Commissioner Pritchett.
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. Me. Commissioner Smith. I just happen to have some information for everyone up here as a recommendation for a search company, and you can look that over. Of course, you can come back with your own recommendations, but this is a company that's come highly recommended to me, so I wanted to forward that information to all of you. So you can look that over, and again, I would stress that I think that we should be very, very happy that Mr. Stockton has been kind enough to give us 90 days, but 90 days isn't a real long time to do something of this import. So the sooner we get started, I think the better we're going to be. So I charge each of you to look these over and come up with any other recommendations you have so that Tuesday we can go forward with this. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.